When Michael Crichton wrote Jurassic Park, he didn't start with the dinosaurs. He actually started with a warning. A warning about what he called a scientific gold rush, this furious, totally uncontrolled race to commercialize genetic engineering. Today, we're going to dive right into that warning, using the book's first few chapters to explain how a secret chase for profit can unleash monsters long before anyone even knows they're out there.
This quote, man, it sets such a chilling tone right from the get-go. It's a really simple but profound idea. Once you create something new with genetic engineering, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. You can't just recall it. The consequences are permanent. And that's the core tension right at the heart of this story.
So, a scientific gold rush. Crichton's central argument is that the biotech revolution we see in the book isn't some noble quest for knowledge. Nope, it's a gold rush, a frantic, unregulated, and super secretive scramble for patents and profits that's operating with almost zero oversight. There was this massive cultural shift happening. The kind of pure research done by Watson and Crick back in 1953, that was celebrated as a win for all of humanity. Well, that had been completely replaced. By the 1980s, science and commerce were totally entangled. Researchers who once looked down on the business world were now sitting on corporate boards, chasing billions of dollars. Crichton breaks down exactly why this scientific revolution is so uniquely dangerous. First off, it's broad-based. We're not talking about one lab. We're talking thousands, making it impossible to track. Second, a lot of the research is, frivolous. Things like square trees for easier lumbering. It shows this kind of whimsical, careless use of an incredibly powerful technology. And third, and this is the real kicker, it's completely uncontrolled. There are no laws, no real watchdogs. Everybody has a stake in the profits, so who's left to sound the alarm? And this brings us to the main case study of the book, the InGen Incident. It's presented like a real-world disaster that got successfully covered up, precisely because of all those factors we just talked about. It happened in secret, in a remote location, and the company was able to silence the few survivors and investors. It's the perfect storm of this new scientific era. All right, so we're moving from the theory to the very first, very real consequence. Our story begins not with a roar, but with a mysterious medical emergency on a storm-swept coast. Just picture this scene. A tiny, isolated clinic in Bahia Anasco, Costa Rica. The rain is just hammering down. It feels like you're at the edge of the world. Then, all of a sudden, a helicopter from InGen Construction appears out of the storm, desperate to land. They're carrying a young man, couldn't be older than 18, with just devastating injuries. The official story from the nervous company man at Regis is that it was a construction accident. A backhoe ran over him. But the doctor on duty, Bobby Carter, she immediately has her doubts. As she examines the patient, the story just doesn't add up. The evidence of her own eyes completely contradicts the official report. So, the question is, what did she actually see? And this slide just lays out the inconsistencies perfectly. A backhoe would crush bone and grind dirt into the wound. But this man's flesh is shredded, as if he was mauled. There's no dirt, only a strange foamy saliva, and there's an odor she's never smelled before. But the most damning thing of all, the cuts on his hands are classic defensive wounds. This young man was attacked, and he fought back. Before he dies, the worker whispers this cryptic phrase, Losa Raptor. The paramedic, Manuel, is terrified, thinking it's connected to a local vampire myth, the Hupia. But the word itself is a mystery. A vital clue that no one can figure out. And then the InGen foreman just takes the body and Dr. Carter's camera and disappears right back into the storm. Now that incident could have just been a tragic anomaly, but then, a few days later, it happens again. This time, the victim is an American tourist, an 8-year-old girl, which adds another terrifying piece to the puzzle. While she's playing on a deserted beach at Cabo Blanco, 8-year-old Tina Bowman is approached by this strange, dark green lizard. It's kind of cute, about the size of a chicken, and it walks on its hind legs. She thinks it's a pet. But then, without warning, it leaps onto her arm and starts viciously biting her. And this is where the system's failure to see the truth really begins. An expert is called in. He dismisses Tina's story. It's a common basilisk lizard, he says. The severe swelling? Just an allergic reaction? Her drawing? Oh, that's just a child's fantasy with a few details wrong. But Tina is adamant. It had a long neck, 3-toed tracks just like a bird, and it chirped. You see, the expert trusts the known facts, not the impossible evidence staring him right in the face.
So now we have two separate, confirmed attacks by a mysterious animal, and yet the truth gets completely buried. Let's look at how a series of small, seemingly logical failures prevents anyone from connecting the dots.
First, a midwife witnesses lizards kill a newborn baby, but she's scared she'll be blamed for leaving it alone, so she reports the death as SIDS. The evidence vanishes. Second, a lab analyzing Tina's saliva finds an enzyme that's a clear marker for genetic engineering, but they just assume it must be a lab contaminant and don't report it. And third, a top lab in New York tests a lizard fragment and finds no known diseases, which everyone takes as confirmation that it's a harmless, known species. Each step makes sense in isolation, but together they form a total cascade of failure.
This table just lays it all out perfectly. The saliva sample is dismissed, the physical specimen of the creature is thrown in a freezer to wait for an expert who's out of the country for months, and the eyewitness drawing is filed away as a child's inaccurate sketch. The system has effectively hidden the truth from itself.
But despite all this, the truth is still there. It's sitting in files and freezers, just waiting for someone with the right perspective, someone outside the system of experts, to see what's plainly obvious.
So the crucial clue, the actual piece of the creature, is in a freezer at Columbia University labeled Basiliscus amaratus with three-toed genetic anomaly and just forgotten. The head of the lab, Dr. Stone, is annoyed by the whole thing and just wants to wait for the proper expert to return.
And then a technician named Alice Levin, who works down the hall, walks by and sees Tina's drawing. She's not a leading scientist, she's a mother of two boys. She takes one look and says, "Oh, whose kid drew the dinosaur?" The doctor scoffs, but she insists. Why? Because her kids are obsessed with them. To her, it's not a lizard with a few details wrong. It's a perfect drawing of a small dinosaur. The impossible truth was there all along. And that brings us right back to the start. This entire chain of events, the attacks, the cover-ups, the systemic blindness, is a direct result of that scientific gold rush. InGen operated in secret. The evidence was ignored because it didn't fit known categories, and the experts were too specialized to see the bigger picture. So it leaves us with this final, chilling question. When science becomes a secret race for profit, who is left to watch for the monsters?